Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rankin.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith, absent. Councilmember Celaya.
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
Councilmember Montaño.
Here.
Councilmember Walter.
Here.
Councilmember Woolridge.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, because Memorial Day is coming up, we're going to have a moment of silence. Also, we should remember the disaster that's going on in Oklahoma today. In Moore, Oklahoma, we know that in that area there are 37 confirmed fatalities. 7 of them were children in the school. The last news report I watched, they were still looking for 20 to 30 more children in that school. So tonight, as we stand in a moment of silence, thinking of our servicemen fighting overseas, here in the United States, serving our country to keep us free, be able to do what we do as a government. Let's just keep in mind the people in Oklahoma, too. After the moment of silence, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, and again, remember tonight when you say your prayers to the man above, please keep the people in Oklahoma and our armed services people in mind, as well as your families. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the town council. Council rules limit public comment to 3 minutes. Individual council members may respond to criticism made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of council shall not discuss or take any action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Maria, do we have any slips? Does there any member of the audience have anything that they'd like to address?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Doretta Allison. I reside at 3271 North Riverside in Anthem and in Florence. And I'm here to represent be a part of the board of the Chamber of Commerce to just let you know kind of what's happening, because we're really excited. Some neat things have happened. Just this month, we have taken in Resonate Media, Golf Club at Oasis, Nishi Purses with Pam Williams, Energy Solution Providers LLC, the Arizona Rangers, Desert Appliance, Service Masters First Choice. Those are our new members as of this month, and we're really excited about that. And then also I wanted to always let you know and invite you to our chamber luncheon that we have every third Tuesday of the month, and it's being held at the Holiday Inn Express. And the Florence Fudge Company will be catering it tomorrow, so it will be an excellent luncheon. And you're always welcome to come and join us. Also, on Thursday night from 5:30 to 7, there will be an after business hours mixer at the Pinal County Federal Credit Union, and the public and everybody is invited to come. There'll be refreshments. And then we're going to start something new. We're going to start we're going to call it First Thursdays. And it's going to have live music, and we're going to have refreshments and lots of fun from 4 to 7 o'clock. And hopefully some of the restaurants will stay open and offer special things so that we can have something fun to do downtown. And so that's kind of where we are at the moment, but we got more stuff coming, okay?
Greta, thank you very much. Keep up the good work. We've been able to see the improvements already. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll call to the public. Mark.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item 6, public hearing and presentations. Item A, public hearing on the 2013-2023 Land Use Assumptions and Infrastructure Improvements Plan. Our
Mark,
finance.
Before you go on, let's explain to the audience that Lisa Garcia, our town clerk, is back in Atlantic City at the National Association of Clerks Association She is the president of the Arizona Association, past president, and she will be the president again this year. And our community development staff, consisting of the manager, the deputy manager, and the economic development director, are all up in Vegas in a show to promote Florence. We have a new booklet coming out that I think is once you see it, everything will be great. But that's where they are. I just want to tell you why that they aren't here tonight with us. Thank you, Mark.
At the Recon, which is the largest retail employment convention of the year, where all the national and international retailers get together, and all the site selectors and economic development people are there. So it's a good opportunity for us to tout our community. Ms. Galeen is going to go ahead and present this item, and also there'll be a presentation associated with it.
Mayor and Council, we have been working on our development impact fee study for several months now. And the draft document has been on file in the town clerk's office and also on our website. We have advertised the public hearing, and we also had sent letters out to developers that are active in the town of Florence, and invited them to come to this public hearing. New legislation requires that a public hearing be held on the land use assumptions and the IIP, and then followed by the council approval or disapproval within 60 days. The infrastructure and land use assumptions are part of the computation of the impact fees, and a resolution to adopt the IIP and the land use assumptions will come before you on July 1st. So with that, I'll turn this public hearing over to Clancy Mullen of Duncan Associates.
Let me, before we get started, do you know how many hits we had on the internet on our webpage for this?
No, I didn't.
Do we know how many, did anybody come into the office to review it that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Mayor, do you want to open the public hearing at this time, or are you going to?
Anybody else have any questions of staff? Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. And introduce yourself to us again, please.
Mayor and Council, I'm Clancy Mullen with Duncan Associates out of Austin, Texas. We're the consulting firm that prepared the study that's before you today. This is the subject of this public hearing. And I presented the results to you back in February at the workshop. But that was 3 months ago, and I assume you probably want to get it in the record so I can go through it again if that's your pleasure.
Yes.
Okay. As you're aware, the legislature passed a bill is referred to as SB 1525 back in 2011, which was basically completely rewrote the Enabling Act for impact fees for municipalities. And there were a bunch of requirements. There were some that had to be complied with by January 1st, 2012. And to comply with those, the town ceased collecting sanitation fees, which had been outlawed by the act, general government fees. Library fees continued to be authorized, but because of the way they were adopted, the basis for the study, they couldn't be updated because you didn't have an existing level of service. So we had recommended back prior to January 1st that you cease collecting those until we could update the study for the library fees. We also recommended, and you adopted, reduced fire and police impact fees to remove administrative equipment, and there were no changes made to the transportation fees or the utility fees at that time. By August 1st, 2014, you have to come into full compliance with the Act. So you need to prepare infrastructure improvements plans, land use assumptions, et cetera, and that's what we're in the process of doing today, is to come into, so we can get you in compliance by August 1st, 2014, because if you're not in compliance by then, essentially you have to quit collecting impact fees until you come into compliance. One of the key elements of SB 1525 is service areas. And, you know, based on the size of the town, the configuration of the town, we're suggesting that the town can retain townwide service areas for transportation, for fire and police, for the library. For parks, we don't think you can justify that. We're recommending that you have one service area that's basically the old part of Florence, up to Florence Gardens. It's kind of hard to tell on this, oops, sorry. Kind of hard to tell on this map, but it's this green shaded area here would be the park service area. So park impact fees would continue to be collected in this area and would be spent in that area, but could not be collected, you know, in other parts of the town. Because if you have service areas in the other parts of town, that's where you really don't have any parks now, so you'd be committing to build parks in those areas. And we went back and forth through this. We had proposed another service area over in the Merrill Ranch area, but after some discussion with council, we had decided, and staff, we decided not to recommend that. So we're going to have one park service area, but it's not going to be town-wide. And water and wastewater, we're going to have one both north and south of the river. So there'll be two for both water and wastewater. So another requirement of the act is that for each of the service areas, you have to prepare land use assumptions covering 10 years, or at least 10 years. So we did prepare those. They're in the study. You know, the land use assumptions, we basically looked at what the Central Arizona Governments, the CAG, projected, but their projections, which are, you know, probably the best that are available because they include non-residential, et cetera, by small area. But they were done really back in 2007, so really before the crash. And so while we based them on those, we scaled them back pretty dramatically. I mean, basically we said what the CAG projected, the growth you would get in 5 years, we think you'll get over a 13-year period, actually. So that's the projections that we're using. So when you see revenue projections, they're based on these land use assumptions. But keep in mind, the land use assumptions do not drive the fees at all. I mean, basically, it will determine how much revenue you're going to be projected to get in 10 years. You know, they may be off. They may be too conservative. You may grow more than that. You may grow less. But it's not going to affect the impact fees one way or the other. And here's just some housing unit projections. As you can see, not surprisingly, most of your growth is projected to be north of the river, and most of that, so about half your growth in the Anthem Merrill Ranch area, and the rest of it scattered around, some in Florence Gardens, some south of the river. So we're projecting in total that you're going to increase from current about 5,600 to about 8,500, about 3,000 dwelling units over the next 10 years. So that's kind of the basis for the land use assumptions. They also include non-residential projections. So some of the highlights of the study: the road fees are going to differ depending on whether you're in the Merrill Ranch CFDs or not. If you're in the CFDs, then you're paying community facility district taxes or assessments that are basically paying for a lot of major road improvements that are being put up in that area. So that's the reason those fees are lower, because they're paying partly through their impact fees. They'll be paying partly through their community facility district taxes. On the library, if you reinstate the library impact fee, you're really committing to build a library in 10 years. If you don't build it, you're going to have to refund the money. You're going to need impact fees, are including what you've already collected that are in the fund balance, would pay for just under about half of a 10,000 square foot library. I know your plans are for a much bigger library, but for the portion that's eligible for impact fees is just the first 10,000 square feet. And so for that portion, we're estimating that impact fees would pay just under half of it. The town would have to come up with the rest of it, basically because you have this existing deficiency in the sense that you don't have a library building that's town-owned at this point. For the park impact fees, of course, the major consequence is that you will cease collecting park impact fees in the Merrill Ranch area because they're outside the park service area. Fire fees, again, are going to be lower in the Merrill Ranch area because those community facility district funds are being used to build a new fire station, the new Anthem Fire Station. And then finally, water and wastewater fees. There would be no fees collected, which is consistent with your current practice in the North Florence Improvement District, because those properties are paying assessments that funded the acquisition of that system. Oops, wrong way. So just a summary of the current and proposed fees. This doesn't include water and wastewater. And I know there's a lot of columns and everything, and this is a pretty complicated table. If you look at the top here, we've got roads in the community facility district, outside the community facility district where they're higher, or inside the community facility district. Park fees, the little asterisk just indicates that they are only going to be collected in that park service area, so not everybody will pay the park impact fees. Fire, again, in the community facility district or outside, police and library, everybody would pay. And then to summarize, we have outside the CFD, park service area or outside the park service area, and then in the CFD, which of course is also outside the park service area. If you look at the changes here, you can see that road fees are going up considerably if you're outside the CFD. If you're in the CFD, it kind of varies. You know, non-residential would pay considerably less. Single-family home would pay about 10% more. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. Park fees are higher than current fees. The fire fees are basically going down. They're going down more in the CFD. Police fees are going down for residential, but they're going up for non-residential. So again, kind of a mixed bag there. We can't really compare the library fees because you're not charging anything now, but these updated library fees are lower than what you were charging prior to January 1, 2012. So then if you look at the summary here, you've got in the park service area outside the CFDs, you've got fees going up overall, except for institutional uses. Outside the park service area, they're going up, but not near as much. And then in the community facility district, they're going down. The utility fees are basically going down, water and wastewater both. In the first set of columns here, we've got the water fee, we've got the current fee, the updated fee, and the percent change. You see most of these are negative. You've got a couple, because it varies. We updated the meter capacity ratios that determine what these fees are. But you can see for your single family fee, which is this first one, the smallest meter for residential, is going down about 40% for water, about 48% for wastewater. So those are going down quite significantly. To try to compare the impact of all of the fees, utility and non-utility fees, we prepared a table here that just looks at a single-family home. And so So it depends on if you're a utility customer or not. I'll figure this pointer out eventually. If you're a utility customer, your fees are basically going down primarily because those utility fees are going down. But if you're in the North Florence district, even if you're a utility customer, you don't pay right now any water, wastewater impact fees. So the fact that they're lower is not necessarily benefiting you. So the North Florence Improvement District, their fees are going to be higher than they are, but they're still going to be considerably lower than everybody else that's a utility customer. If you're a non-utility customer, and as you see, this percentage and fees is exactly the same as these guys here. These are non-utility customers outside the community facility district, that basically outside Merrill Ranch, but in the park service area, which basically fits the North Florence Improvement District. They're in the park service area. They're outside the CFDs. They're not a non-utility customer, but they don't pay utility impact fees. So anyway, if you're a non-utility customer, basically if you're in Merrill Ranch, your fees are going down, but if you're outside Merrill Ranch, your fees are going up. And they're going up more if you're in the park service area. So that's kind of a summary of what's happening with the fees. This kind of summarizes very briefly the infrastructure improvements plans. So you've got your facility types over here, roads, fire, parks, et cetera. Just listed some of the major planned improvements. In some cases, this is all of the improvements that are planned. The eligible costs, this is the cost of those improvements that would be eligible to fund with impact fees, and then your projected revenues. And you can see impact fees are not going to pay for all of these improvements that were in our 10-year plan. But of course, there's no guarantee all these improvements will have to be made. It's going to depend on, of course, how growth actually occurs, et cetera. So, in terms of the timeline, there's the SB 1525 spells out a very detailed and drawn out adoption process. We're right here with the public hearing on the land use assumptions and IIP. And as Becky said, we're by July 1, you'll reconvene and either adopt or approve or disapprove. And so if we need to make any changes to the land use assumptions and IIP, SB 1525 is actually not very clear on that, if you can make changes once you've started the process. Well, we think you can make changes, but you need to post them. You can make changes after the public hearing, as long as you have it up on your website for, I think our draft ordinance says at least 2 weeks prior to the meeting. So if anything comes up here that would indicate we need to make a change, we could make that change and still have your adoption meeting on July 1. Then we have to have a separate public hearing, this time basically on the ordinance to adopt the new fee schedules. And then, again, within 60 days, minimum of 30 days, you need to approve or disapprove the ordinance. And again, I think we could make amendments after the public hearing before your approval or disapproval. And then after that date, you've got a 75-day waiting period, and that would put your effective date at December 1st. So that's the current adoption schedule. And that concludes my presentation, so I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does any member of the council have any questions?
I have a couple just for my own clarification. Kind of got a little bit lost in your report. These are for up and coming new customers, new developers coming in. Are there any impacts to the already existing?
No. An impact fee is assessed at building permit.
Okay.
On new construction. It could also be assessed on a redevelopment, but it would only be on the portion that's the net increase from what was there before.
When you make your projections on future costs, how do you factor in cost for construction is, how do you know what the future rate of construction is going to be for some of these projects?
Well, we don't. We've done everything in current dollars, so this is basically on a snapshot in time. You know, I mean, this is today's costs. I mean, costs could change. You have to update the thing every 5 years. You can update it more often than that, but the state law mandates you have to do it every 5 years.
Okay, yeah, that would be my concern, is that if we, you'd mentioned that there were several areas where there was a reduction in costs, and my fear would be that the market goes crazy, and then all of a sudden you've got this flood of construction, and then prices escalate, and then you can't keep up with the construction costs.
And that would be, you know, if construction costs start going up dramatically, that might be a reason to have an update sooner than 5 years.
I got a question. We're getting ready to annex, or in the process of doing an annexation north of the Anthem area. But our parks doesn't go into that area. I'm very concerned about that because they don't have the parks in the 4 areas that are constructed now. How do we address that? How do we get impact fees that are coming into that area? And can you go back to the map and show us the park area?
Yeah, sorry, that's not a very big map.
I'm very concerned about that because those folks out there be looking for recreational facilities, and they cannot use the ones at Anthem. But are they excluded out of our area that we can charge an impact fee for parks?
Well, no. No, they're not excluded from using your existing parks.
No. Mark, and I can't see that map worth a darn. And let me go with Mark too with you at the same time. In our map there, we don't show anything for, as far as being in the town limits, anything to do with Oasis or Magic Ranch, Crutchfield Manor, or Wild Horse. Is that correct?
Mayor, members of the council, yes, the area that we're working with is the current corporate limits of the town of Florence. And the problem with developing the parks category north of where it stops is that the town did not have any public park facilities beyond F Mountain. And the park facilities in Anthem, of course, are private and HOA managed. So therefore, we had no parks in that area. Our parks master plan shows that we will have parks in that area at some point, but because we actually do not have any parks physically, we have what we call as a deficiency, which means ultimately what that translates into in common terms is that we could only collect a very small impact fee, and then we would have to fund the remainder of the difference ourselves, and we would have to have that improvement done within the 10-year time period. So the problem in that area became that we're almost funding any park almost entirely out with funds other than impact fees. And once you start adding a little bit of money in the impact fees, now all of a sudden you've mandated that you have to get that park done within a certain time frame, or you would have to figure out how to refund the money that you did collect. So it's the new law didn't do us any favors in that area. They also mandated in the new law that on parks there has to be a direct correlation between where you collect the impact fee for a park and the area that is using that park. So the park size can't be over a certain amount of acres. I believe 30 is the utmost maximum, but also there has to be a direct correlation so that where you're collecting the fee for a park impact fee, there has to be a relationship between those folks that are paying that fee and those same folks using the park. So there was a lot of problems in that particular area, unlike with the streets and the police and the fire, which are more universal in nature. So we still need parks in the area, initially, we're going to have to probably look at other avenues of how to get them funded, probably through land dedications of land and other ways.
So in other words, if we decide to go out there and put a park at this time, do the annexation of people that live outside of the Anthem area, the taxpayer of Florence out of the general fund would be paying it. And the developers wouldn't be paying it. That's what you're telling me.
At this stage, the way that the law was written, it pretty much tied our hands on the park development north of the area that we've shown. So parks would have to be funded through land dedications, exactions, voluntary contributions in lieu of impact fees. So we could say, well, we don't have impact fees that we could utilize for park in this area, but obviously you're building a subdivision with 2,000 homes. We need to have a park in this area. Can you help us build that? That's going back to kind of the old ways of doing business where we used to have those relationships with builders and developers.
And would that be something you would recommend over a homeowners association having a park?
We definitely need to have, Mayor and Council, we definitely need to have public parks north of the Gila River, north of Anthem. The problem, the deficiency with the, not to use that term again, but the problem with the private parks and the HOA parks is that they fulfill a need of that community, but they cannot necessarily be utilized by the general public, so people outside of that community, and they can't be used for programming that we have and or sports leagues have, as you know, for softball or soccer or whatever it may be, so it creates a huge problem. And of course, we know in that northern area there aren't any county parks that can substitute and fill that need. So initially, what will probably have to be done is look for ways to partner with private communities or other entities, or try and find some space to accommodate some of the recreational program until we have the opportunity to construct some parks.
Can you do that through improvement districts like the lighting improvement districts?
I believe a park would be a challenging thing to do an improvement district for, but I believe that if we had one of the projects take off up there, so the existing stuff is pretty hard, but if you're working with a new project and they obviously want to sell homes and have an amenity there, I think we could work with them to get some improvements done. So perhaps, I know in some projects already up in that area, we have substantial land that would be dedicated to the town for police stations or fire stations, or even 30-plus acre park sites. So I know that we have land already in various plans. We would just have to work with folks to figure out, can you help us with some of these improvements, and then maybe we can fund the difference and phase the improvements in. Once we have some facilities and we can deal with that deficiency issue, then we probably can come back and say, let's revisit the study and start collecting impact fees again and be able to program some additional facilities in.
Well, it's something that's going to have to be done. We're going to have to address with the new areas that are coming in. Any new area coming in town should be paying their fair share. The people that have already lived here or have existing property rights, they shouldn't be having to pay to foot the bill for all this. So we do need to look at that. I'd like to go to the library if I could. How big is the school library that we're using at this time? How many square feet?
I don't know what, Mayor, Council, I'm not sure what that square footage of that facility is. But obviously it's a shared facility with its limitations. So that was another thing the statutes changed, is put that 10,000 cap on it, so we can build a facility that's larger. It's just the difference now has to come out of other funds. There was a lot of gifts that the state gave to us in 1525, right? And one thing they did do was promise that they would probably lay off additional changes to the impact fees over the next couple of years, so we can kind of get these implemented without the fear of more changes coming on.
Well, I guess what I was looking at is the dollar number that you showed on the capital projects list up there. You go to that. right there on the library of 10,000 square foot, since we don't have anything going really. Is that library that we're using up there is 10,000 square foot, or is that smaller?
The library at the school
At the
is-
high
is-
school.
The library at the school is smaller than that. And one of the problems with the way we were collecting fees in the past, well, the situation really came down to is that the assets that we have were in books and materials, and we didn't have a building. So that's one of the reasons we had to discontinue for a while collecting the library impact fee. So when we reprogram the new building into the impact fees, we can at least start collecting a fee again for the library.
And Becky, is that the amount of money that we have on hand at this time?
No, that is, the revenues, that is what's going to be collected over a period of time. So what they're saying is you'll probably result in $19 million worth of revenues, but your projects are $93 million. So that means you have to get funding elsewhere.
So on the library, you're expecting in 2023 to only have collected $800,000 or $650,000?
Yes,
And at today's cost, the cost of the library is $1,075,000. Today's cost, not 2023 cost?
well, the eligible cost is only $1,075,000 because of that 10,000 square foot limitation.
And none of this was done with the anticipation of the project that is going on at Calvin Road and 79. Is that correct?
That area, the impact fee area extends down to the south all the way to the border.
So that will be in the impact area.
Yes,
That could be affected though by homeowners association?
yes.
Is that correct?
Well, the Florence Ranch area, the mayor council, the entire town is within an impact fee area. It's just in different areas you can charge certain fees that you can't charge in another area. But Florence Ranch is, if they end up being served by Johnson Utility, so they won't collect a water and sewer impact fee, but we'll collect all the other categories of impact fees. And I believe that the park area extended down to the south
Yes.
area, so we will collect a park impact fee there as well. So we will have money from pretty much Florence Gardens, F Mountain, everywhere down south. We'll continue to collect money for park impact fee, and there are other park improvements and park facilities that will be built with that money, potentially even a public park in the Florence Ranch development or around that area.
Now, you have to remember, that's based upon the projected population. Say it exploded, you'll have more users coming on, paying more fees, and that number of revenues could increase if you exceed what has been projected.
If we were to develop the land between Felix Road and F Mountain, or if we were to be successful in taking over the mine property and put in a regional park over at that area, does that amount to allow us to go ahead and charge impact fees, say north of Crestfield Manor?
Mayor, Council, if we can work towards addressing the park deficiency in the northern reaches of our town, then that gives us an opportunity, and also the economy is rebounding and we have growth, so we have money coming in, because it's a combination of things. It's deficiency, and it's also how fast we're going to grow and where the need will be, and associating the improvements that we do develop with where we collect the impact fees. So there's 2, 3, 4 things kind of going on, but if we can deal with the deficiency and we have growth in that area, we can come back and revisit this study. And at a minimum, as Clancy said, it's 5 years, but we may find that so much changes in 2 years, potentially with the annexation, potentially with getting a park built, that we may want to come back and revisit it sooner.
And if we come back in less than 5 years and use Clancy's company, we're going to get a discount, right?
I believe that's what he's indicated, right?
Any other council members have any questions? Any member staff have anything they want to ask him? You're the ones who are going to take the hit. Any member of the public have anything they'd like to ask Clancy? Clancy, thank you very much for coming back. We appreciate it. And at this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Item 6B, the Greater Florence Chamber of Commerce, presentation of an award to the Pinal County Federal Credit Union for being May's Chamber Business of the Month. I believe Susan is coming up.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Susan Carestas, and I am the Executive Director for the Greater Florence Chamber of Commerce. It is with pleasure this evening that I'm going to present this award, Business of the Month Award, to Jennifer Nathaniel, the Branch Manager of Pinal County Federal Credit Union, for their outstanding service to our community and their support of our chamber. Jennifer, may I present you with this plaque? It's an honor and a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beth.
Really quickly, I would just like to introduce our Assistant Branch Manager as well, Erica Moyanedo. We are truly honored that the Chamber of Commerce chose us for the Business of the Month. The Chamber has been extremely instrumental in the growth, the continuous growth and support of the credit union. And we're very, on behalf of the credit union, we are very proud to be a part of the town of Florence for over 50 years. Our plan is to stay in the town and continue to grow with the town. So we would love for you guys to join us at the Mixer on Thursday from 5:30 to 7 and just come and enjoy the food and the great fellowship. So thank you again.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Item 7, consent. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a council member or member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item 7A, adoption of resolution number 1393-13, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, supporting application to the Tohono O'odham Nation for state shared revenue grant funds to purchase a police training simulator. Item B, adoption of resolution number 1394-13, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the re-subdivision of lots 40 through 45 inclusive and lots 63 through 65 inclusive, located within the re-subdivision of Anthem at Merrill Ranch Unit 18, requiring the provision of an infrastructure improvement assurance or withholding of recordation to secure this satisfactory construction, installation, and dedication of required improvements, establishing a deadline for required improvements to be completed, and authorizing execution by the town manager of supporting documents. Item C, authorization to enter into an intergovernmental agreement amendment for continued partnership with the Arizona State Parks Board for operation of McFarland State Historic Park. Item D, appointment of Judy Hughes to the Florence Industrial Development Authority Board with a term to expire December 31st, 2013. Item E, approval of the April 15th and May 6th, 2013 Town Council minutes. Item F, receive and file the following board and commission minutes. October 25th, 2012 Parks and Recreation Advisory Board minutes. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Does any member of the council have anything like taken off the consent agenda? Any member of the public? Hearing none, I'll call for motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as written. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. All opposed. Ayes have it, motion carried.
Item 8, unfinished business, ordinance number 595-13, discussion, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, to provide increases in new rates and fees for water and wastewater treatment.
Mayor and council, we had a public hearing for the increase on the fees on May 6th, and I know I'm probably sounding like a broken record by now, but you have been presented these. I've let you know what the increases are going to be. So this is the actual ordinance to adopt.
Does any member of the council have any questions, Becky? I know none of us want to do it. Anything, any member of the public have any comment on the rate study? Hearing none at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 595-13, an ordinance to increase utility rates and fees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 595-13, an ordinance of the town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, to provide increases in new rates and fees for water and wastewater treatment. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This is the second call to the public. Second call to the public still has the same qualifications in place as the first. Is there any member of the public like to speak? Hearing none, I'll close call to the public. Call to the council. Ruben?
Yeah, I need to check with Wayne. Wayne, we talked about a while back on that, the side of the road on Attaway going toward Hunt Highway, they had that barricades that are there showing that it has a sharp drop, and you guys said you're working on it, so.
It's been designed, extended the curb drainage to the Wiggins property, and also extended the attractive.
Okay. Remind the council, the staff or the public can't really comment on this portion. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tommy?
Nothing today.
Sarah?
I just want to say there's a lot of exciting opportunities coming around in the town of Florence in terms of park and rec with our swim clubs and summer programs. And also our library has a program called Dig Into Reading, and all of the information can be found on the website. They have activities for kids as well as adults, so I just want to encourage everybody to check it out and come on down and participate.
Bill?
Oh, I have nothing.
Howard?
I don't have anything tonight.
Sunday, I attended the National Guard opening of their new training facility. Quite a facility it's out there made. They have future plans that they're going to be meeting with us to talk about the expansion of the facility, not only on the east side of 79, but the possibility on the west side of 79 also. They have made a commitment to Florence, and they will be expanding and bringing in more people. They're trying to become a training center, I think, for the western United States, which at this time, I think is going to be a good idea, bringing in different people to the area. They also anticipate bringing more full-time personnel down here on a continuous basis due to the manner of the training and classes that are going on. So I think it's going to be an asset to our community. Some of us can remember back in the 60s, you would see military vehicles parked on Main Street, Jeeps, not half tanks, but troop carriers and everything. They would come into town, they'd eat, to go to the stores. They'd be in sometimes at night to take advantage of the entertainment provided in the town. So I think it will be a small economic boost, but I think it will be a good one. Also, I was approached by one individual that will remain anonymous at this time, but talking about bringing a business to Florence. He has land in North Arizona, but he lives here, and he'd like to bring in a business, so he will be getting with our town manager and economic development director. So he said it would probably start off by employing at least 52 people, so we are diversifying. With that, everybody have a happy Memorial Weekend. We'll see you next month. We need a motion?
To adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Valerie approved it. Tommy?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.